poetry blog. Real talk, I had the mic off when we did our first intro. And then he was reading and I was like,
I have another interview at 2:45, so
oh my God.
I probably need to tell them that I won't be there.
Let's go to Jericho Brown. Jericho, I'm actually quasi-introduce.
My name is Jericho Brown.
Exactly.
And I'm a poet, and I wrote a book called The Tradition. This is it right here.
And the talk that you all missed was me saying how
it was
much I
all
love
about sex.
Yeah, kind of. Yes. We intentionally turned off the mic on all of you, so you couldn't catch it. But
it's okay.
we were actually talking about the New Testament, which is also all about sex.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know,
yeah,
and I was saying that that's my personal favorite of your books.
Of my books,
And my students have been reading The Tradition, and they love it, which is like a hard note to hit with undergrads in poetry.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
They really do. So, will you read for us?
Yes, I will. I'll read a poem. I'll read 2 poems from
Thanks.
The Tradition.
And then, real quick, while you're pulling the poem up, where can people find you online?
People can find me at jerichobrown.com. I'm on Facebook. My name is Jericho Brown. I'm on Twitter at Jericho Brown. And I'm on Instagram at Jericho Brown 1.
Okay. Let's jump in. Will you read for us?
I'll read you
Thank
a
you.
poem. 4:00 in the morning. My mother grew morning glories that spilled onto the walkway toward her porch. Because she was a woman with land who showed as much by giving it color. She told me I could have whatever I worked for. That means she was an American. But she'd say it was because she believed in God. I am ashamed of America and confounded by God. I thank God for my citizenship in spite of the timer set on my life to write these words. I love my mother. I love black women who plant flowers as sheepish as their sons. By the time the blooms unfurl themselves for a few hours of light, the women who tend them are already at work. Blue. I'll never know who started the lie that we are lazy, but I'd love to wake that bastard up at 4:00 in the morning, toss him in a truck, and drive him under God past every bus stop in America to see all those black folk waiting to go work for whatever they want. A house, a boy to keep the lawn cut, some color in the yard. My God, we leave things green. And I'll read bullet points too. It's on page 16. Bullet points. I will not shoot myself in the head, and I will not shoot myself in the back, and I will not hang myself with a trash bag. And if I do, I promise you, I will not do it in a police car while handcuffed, or in the jail cell of a town I only know the name of, because I have to drive through it to get home. Yes, I may be at risk, but I promise you, I trust the maggots who live beneath the floorboards of my house to do what they must to any carcass, more than I trust an officer of the law of the land to shut my eyes like a man of God might, or to cover me with a sheet so clean my mother could have used it to tuck me in. When I kill me, I will do it the same way most Americans do. I promise you, cigarette smoke, or a piece of meat on which I choke, or so broke I freeze in one of these winters we keep calling worst. I promise if you hear of me dead anywhere near a cop, then that cop killed me. He took me from us and left my body, which is, no matter what we've been taught, greater than the settlement a city can pay a mother to stop crying, and more beautiful than the new bullet fished from the folds of my brain.
Thank you. I have a quick question, actually. Were you raised near, like, religion or church?
Yeah, not near it.
I don't want to be, like, too direct and,
No,
like,
I was raised
out that about
under
yourself
it.
if you're, like,
I was
not
raised
lying.
under it. We were every Sunday and every Wednesday night for what
That's
they call
true.
prayer meeting, and
Yeah.
then sometimes throughout the week for various rehearsals, you know, choirs and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Were you in choir?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were. But you know, the church. A lot of people who are not a part of the church in the United States, they don't understand that this is why the church has such power. It really makes a world in and of itself. You know,
Yeah.
you could be on the baseball team, the debate team,
Yeah.
the drill team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
do.
If you want to learn to
Yeah.
shoot guns, you can do it at church.
Yeah.
If you want to learn to sew, you can do it at church.
I think
it's
it,
its
keeps
own
it all in
orbit.
like the text and oral tradition merged at all times.
Yes, yes.
Like it really digs into that like kind of guttural like everything
so.
you do is seen as like wholly embodied
Yeah, yeah,
and lived.
yeah.
And historical. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
told that it's part of this like non-ending lineage, so you're
Yeah.
no longer cut off from it. But I ask because I actually hear it in your reading style.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If that makes
Preachers.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I think it's
even
1/3, at least
preachers,
1/3
like,
of just the way of speaking
Yeah,
in church, right?
exactly.
Which is not necessary. There's something about it that's always aiming for that which is plain and that which is lifted at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah.
So it's an interesting vernacular of its own
It
making,
is.
right?
I didn't think about it much until I started doing my own readings for the first time in like 5 years in the last couple of weeks, and I heard it coming out of me. I was like, "What is this?" You know,
It's
like
always
this-
about declaring.
Yeah,
I declare.
yeah.
I decree.
Yeah, exactly. And you're always talking from this place of it being like beyond you at the same time.
And it's a great background to have if you're going to be a poet
Yeah.
because of that idea of the oral tradition and of sound in and of itself, but also because there's automatic mythology and iconography,
Yeah.
right, that you're sort of working with,
Yep.
even in the way the order of service is set up or the way a sanctuary is configured. Like there are different things that you are thinking about metaphorically, whether you know it or not, if you have that history when you are making your poem.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
I might have a good connection point here. I'm going to put a quick pin in the fact that I think you're like a master of line breaks. So we can also talk about that if you're open
Yeah,
to
I'd
it
love
from
to.
a craft
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. I love talking
Because I
about
think
line
poets struggle with line breaks, and students definitely are just like, you know.
What is that? Yeah.
But lilies, like I was thinking about how around like Easter, you would always, all of the women would get lilies and grow lilies and cut lilies and put them around the pulpit as part of like the Easter tradition.
Yeah,
And then at Christmas, it was the poinsettia growing
Yeah.
and putting the poinsettias around the altar and like
Yeah.
so forth. So can we use that to connect to what we're talking about today?
Sure, yeah. I mean, one of the things that I was interested in talking about, one of the things I wanted to talk about was flowers,
Yeah.
right? Which is really the germ of this book, the root of this book. When I began writing this book, I was very aware of the fact that I was writing in the pastoral tradition, the tradition of, you know, looking out at nature and reflecting on it and having something to say that would appear in a lyric poem.
Yeah.
Part of that had to do with the fact that I had my own home and I finally had a yard and I could make it real pretty. And I was surprised by my need to have a garden because I used to think it was so silly that my mother and father
It just seems like excessive work.
Yeah, like why am I adding to what I have to do?
Yeah.
And so thinking about that, and thinking about that on one level just because I want something pretty to come home to, beauty to come home to, but also thinking about the fact that over and over again, it is becoming clear to us that we are also destroying that opportunity for beauty. That there won't be places where there can be trees, that there won't be trees, you know, that there won't be flowers. So I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking about everything else I'm always thinking about and how that sort of intersects with that. One of the reasons why I chose the two poems that I chose was I can't really separate my love from flowers from my family. And when I think about my family, if I get as broad as possible, then that means I can't separate it from my race, from my blackness, you know. And how this love of flowers, how gardening was passed down generation after generation in my family, and how that need for beauty had nothing to do with, as I told you before, beans, greens, tomatoes, potatoes, right? It wasn't, oh, we're growing this so we can eat. We're growing this simply for pleasure, right? And so I was interested in that, putting this book together. What happens if I take the image of the flower, whatever that image is, for each person? For some people, when I say flower, they see a rose. For some people, they see a gardenia. For some people, they see a dahlia, right? And then what if I juxtapose that to something else that I think conjures several images, and that is black men. If I say black man, then everyone's going to have something different happen in their head. And so I wanted to put these things together over and over again. So.
Is it too much of a stretch? We can cut this out if you're not wanting to go there, but I'm also thinking about in queer spaces how flowers have always been a way of like coding your queerness, right? Like wearing like a lavender on your lapel, right? Or like oftentimes in like queer women communities, right? Like talking about like a desire for flowers as coding for like wanting to basically win out on women, right? But then also among like queer men and trans communities, flowers being this sort of like wreath of like queerness and so forth.
Yeah, well, that was part of the other thing. So, there's the pastoral, there's the Southern tradition, there's the tradition of the South, there's the fact that, like it or not, whether they like it or not, or whether I like it or not, I am a descendant of the fugitive poets. I am a descendant of certain kinds of Gothic literature. I am a descendant of Black literature, but I'm also a part of queer poetry throughout time, from Whitman to me, and even before Whitman. I mean, from A.E. Housman, even before A.E. Housman, from Shakespeare. Do you understand what I'm saying? And what happened, so one of the things that I brought, because you asked me to bring a thing, was the first book signing I ever did from the book. I wore this.
I think I did see a picture of this.
Did you see this?
Yeah.
And
because I do follow you on Instagram.
This is not the one I had on. Okay. The one I had on was much more colorful than this. This was actually one. What's been wonderful about this tour is I go give readings and I'll look out in the audience and there will be people wearing flower crowns, and it just.
That would make me melt.
I know. I would like. Oh my God! It makes me so. It's like. Yeah. It is the sweetest. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like you feel silly dying over it, but you just want to die over it. You know. Yeah. So, but what happens when the Black man, this queer body. Puts this on, right? And that's part of what I'm interested in the book. I want to see all these things come together, and I want us to ask questions about why we have questions about it. Do you know what I mean?
What were your key questions about it then? And what questions do you find come up for other people in it?
Well, it's an interesting thing because, me wearing flowers on my head, interestingly enough, in my DMs on Twitter and in
DMs on Twitter.
I know, right? And on Instagram, especially on Instagram.
One more random white dude DMs me on Twitter. I'm just gonna universally block that. No.
But they were like, what's up with the flowers? So you wearing flowers now?
People ask?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting thing.
Were you like, why aren't you wearing flowers?
Well, then I just answer the question.
The 90s are back.
Then I just answer the question, but it was an interesting thing. I think there are people in my life or people who watch my life or think they're watching my life who are like, wait, what's going to happen next? Right? And I think this is also the fear that people who aren't queer have about queer people, right? That, you give them an inch, they'll take a yard. Like he's wearing flowers. What's he going to do next? And how am I going to be made comfortable when he does the thing he does next? Do you know what I mean? So that was one of the things. But I have to say, when I'm writing a book, I can't think about those things as directly. I sort of realize that I'm thinking about these things once the book is done, or at least once a bunch of poems toward the book are done. So I wasn't asking myself those questions as directly.
To people DMing you that?
Well, it depends. Sometimes you can ignore them. Or sometimes you just say.
Does it seem friendly or does it feel like hostile?
With some people it feels hostile because they're the same people who have been or wanted to DM you on some sexual stuff. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And so now you've broken whatever their idea is about you. And so they're like, wait, can I put my idea back together or not? And it's all based on me wearing a flower crown? Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So and I think something about that is hostile, but also I don't feel like the older I get, the better I am at being a diplomatic person, which I'm really surprised by because I think it has a lot to do, quite honestly, with writing this book.
Okay. Why?
Because, I don't think.
Because one of my goals in my 30s is to learn how to be more diplomatic.
Well, no, don't make that a goal. Be rageful. I think that I was on the front of it rageful. Okay. And that is what happened in the writing of these poems.
Okay.
And writing these poems helped me handle that rage. It's not that any of the rage is gone. It's not that the rage is the problem. That's what I was about to say. It's not that the rage shouldn't be there.
Right.
It's that my understanding of my rage, because I just had the rage, but my understanding that it could come up at any given moment, and that it was justified, somehow makes me more empathetic to those who could possibly be the victims of my rage. Do you know what I'm saying?
Who might get more enraged themselves.
Yeah, so I'm less likely to cuss folk out, And I noticed even when I was in my friends
My
noticed.
version of cussing someone out is to block them.
Yeah, no, I cuss
it takes
people out.
so much for me to block someone.
Really?
It is just, to me, it's just such a, like, it's like a pure, like, I will not give you my time. Like, if I cuss someone out, I care. You know what I mean? Like, it's rare that I cuss someone out, because it's usually someone that, like, I'm trying to get them to hear me.
Yeah.
But if I'm at a point with some dude, and it's always a cis dude.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I just block them.
Yeah.
Or I'll do like a LOL.
Maybe it's because I'm an Aries or something, but I think I just no, seriously, like like I just care about everybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then I'm a part of all these different communities.
Yeah.
And I take it very seriously. It's sort of silly how seriously I take it, but I take it very seriously.
Why do you think it's silly?
Well, because it also creates a system of expectation of real live individuals where that expectation doesn't have to exist. I'm a lot better than this than I used to be. But I used to be really, like, there are people who culturally don't understand why I'm saying hello to them, passing them on the street. And in particular, when I would pass by black folk on the street, like, hey, and they would keep going, I would be like, I'm hurt. My heart would be broken. Do you know what I'm saying? And to this day, I think I have some of that same feeling, but I'm handling it a lot better because I'm a little bit more adult.
Okay.
Is what I think.
Yeah, I get it. We're obviously very different people in the world, right?
Yeah.
But I find that my variation of that is in queer spaces. Like when I don't feel like I'm properly passing as queer. And queer spaces, you have this kind of like recognition, eye contact thing you do. And when I don't receive it back, it took a while for me.
Feelings.
It does. It's like, oh, I have to verbally come out to you, or like, are you saying I'm not? Like, there's all these because these spaces create their own ins and outs, and usually you're in them because you're already cast out of another. So then to be cast out again can be just kind of like doubly painful. So do you feel like you've gotten better at not personalizing it, or do you think you've gotten better at not? Like, what is it that you think has improved for you after reading this book?
Well, I just think particularly in queer spaces, for instance, I think I've just come to understand that people have been hurt in ways that, and I've been hurt in those exact same ways, but I handled it oppositely from the ways other people handled it, right? And one of the ways that we handle our pain in queer spaces is that we reenact it on other people. And
I'd say it's the most common way.
Yeah, so if we've been in these sort of situations where folk were always playing the dozens on us or bullying us or being mean girls toward us, we try to create a community around ourselves where we get to be the mean girl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So, and for me, and that means that when someone is kind to you, you're not sure how to take it. When somebody says something nice to you, you think they're trying to read you or shade you. And so I'm a person who was raised, and very seriously raised by a very southern father.
I know exactly what
you
mean.
Find,
you be nice.
Yeah,
and
be not just be nice, be charming.
Same.
Do you know what I mean? People think that that's,
I remember
I don't know what words we
helping
can say
new
on the
friends
show.
I made in Seattle, and I was like, I offered to help them move, and they were just like, "What do you want from me?" And I was like, "I'm making friends, and friends help each other out."
You coming here from the Midwest with that mess, you crazy.
I know, and it got back to me because gossip in the Northwest, and they were like, "Oh, I just don't trust her because she seems to always be offering to do things." And I was like, "But that's." It comes back around,
that's
right?
How
that's that's what you do.
You know
what I mean?
But so I sort of begin to understand that that's not the case for everyone. Right? And to understand that people are that people for whatever reason are afraid of that. And that doesn't have anything to do with me. That has to do with them in their past. You know? And it's also not my job to be their therapist and fix it. They have to figure that out in some space on their own, because I got enough of my own troubles that I need to be working on.
Bring it back now that we're reaching that 20-minute point to flowers and wearing the flower crown and what it's meant for you to curate a garden and have this kind of mixture of your queer and Black identity with flower imagery and flower motifs.
Well, one of the things that it meant is that in the poems I could put all of these things together and therefore remind people that we have more in common. We actually have more uniting us. But there was something other than that I wanted to do with the fact that these are supposedly disparate subjectivities and identities. We know that they're not. But in a lot of people's Yeah, seemingly incongruent. We know they're not, because this is one body. That's one body.
Right.
So it must not be. Look like you ate today. I ate. I'm drinking this water. You know what I'm saying?
In my hand.
Yeah, exactly. We are here, right? So, so one of the things that I was really interested in looking at this is, I'll say it this way. One of our problems, I think, is that over and over again, we like to know what we have in common with people, because we're under the impression that if we have something in common with another, then people will care. I mean, this is what campaigns are about. This is what commercials are about. Everybody's interested in figuring out what they have in common with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I realized writing this book that this is why people are getting shot in the street by police for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
That you think I have to have something in common with you in order for me to live.
Yeah.
You know, when Darren Wilson...
This is so deeply in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. When Darren Wilson murdered Mike Brown, I don't want to forget it. When he was interviewed and on his testimony, he called Mike Brown it. He said it, referring to Michael Brown. And that's why Mike Brown is dead.
Yeah.
Because Darren Wilson thought that was okay because he was killing it.
Well, and then all of the activism around it gets mobilized around saying, well, here's all the reasons Mike Brown's just like us. Instead of like, even if you don't recognize yourself in that person, hello narcissism, you should still maybe not shoot them. Yeah, well, that's what I'm really interested in. Like radical difference, like off the board. Let's go back to the 60s already.
And ultimately, you know, there is too bad there is no queer agenda. But if there were, wouldn't that be it?
You would think.
Right, right now the queer agenda seems to be much more about assimilation, which concerns people like me and you.
I think that queer communities become like very concerned with similitude in a way that's like very scary to me. Actually,
yeah, I don't really get it.
It's like it's straight up. I think I vent at least once a day about it to someone.
Well, I find no joy. Well, the worst part about it is that it's helping to create racism in the queer community in ways. I really do believe that. Like this, it's like, oh, I'm married and I got a house and I got these kids and therefore I get to hate people of color too. Do you know what I'm saying?
With sexism, like
gay men, I agree with you.
Good Lord, the way that gay men have talked to me, and sometimes trans men, I'm like, I would never let a cis straight dude talk to me this way. But like, I mean, I'm not going to go into it on the show. I've had some really abusive experiences with queer masculine folks. And I think it's because there's this idea of similitude, or it's like, now I get to belong in this space, so I'm going to hold the power this way. And it sounds like in your book, you're more invested in these incongruent pieces and not needing to recognize it or have similarity in order to have an appreciation and pleasure in it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want people to be set off by that. You know, like I want some feeling of uncomfortability because you have to deal with the fact that you don't recognize it. And I'm interested in whether or not we can love on something we don't recognize. Do you follow what I mean?
I do.
So that's what I've been thinking a lot.
I think that's actually what's truly radical though. Like truly, like the political concept of radical difference being a space for actual care. Like I don't have to understand this thing as belonging to the class of human or class of animal or class of plant or like something I see myself in, but I'm still gonna not kill it, harm it, turn away as a form of killing or harming, right? Which is probably the biggest violence in some ways. Is still, like, it's been put forward since the 60s, right? Like all of the queer, black and queer and trans and feminists and such in the 60s were going on and on and on, like about difference needing to be the platform for like coalition building. And yet I feel like when we experience fascism pressing down, the opposite happens. And everyone's like, well, what's like me? And I have to hold on to it, which ends up recreating the thing everyone's fighting, you know? I'm so glad you went there.
Thank you.
That's like my passion house.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you said that too.
Thank you.
This is exactly what I mean. Are we good?
I think we're good.
Is it over?
We covered it all.
Yeah, we had flowers, we had poems. We talked about the fact of the book, which you can get at JerichoBrown.com.
JerichoBrown.com. You can get it if you're local to Seattle at Open Books. That's a local poetry bookstore.
Yeah, get it from Open Books.
Powellbooks.com. You can get it anywhere but Amazon. It'll cost the same amount of money.
Indiebound.org is actually a site that you can go to. You can put the tradition, Jericho Brown, and indiebound.org, and there's a way that whatever bookstore is local to you will get the order.
It's
which
pretty
is really
rad,
nice.
yeah. So remember to follow Jericho Brown on social media. I can say that you're one of my favorite social media appearance people in the poetry world. Are we looking good?
You said social media, so we have to make social media faces.
The duck face? I guess that's more MySpace. Instagram now is like...
Is it? Let me see if I can do it. Show it to me again.
Look at the tilt. People see your jaw. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
I gotta try that one out.
I tried it for the first time a week ago.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're really catching on quick.
Learning social media. Remember to subscribe and like to the poetry blog. If I eventually get enough subscribers, I get my own URL, but that's, pipe dream. And thank you to the Mellon Foundation for providing this equipment.
How many subscribers do you have? It's
So
sad.
few.
How many do you need?
You need like 1,000 to get your own URL.
You need 1,000
And
subscribers.
I have like 100.
Do you want to get you want to do a subscriber campaign?
I feel like I can't bring myself to do it. It's just so